Move your wrinkled hands off the counter, Grandma. People like you don't walk out of here with $4 grand in cash. Officer Brent Maddox didn't even bother hiding the smirk as he snatched Evelyn Bird's ID from her trembling fingers, lifting it with two gloved pinches like it carried a disease. You should have kept your little social security check and stayed quiet, shoving her toward the door as customers stared. Now you're going to learn what happens when folks like you pretend to have money. Evelyn didn't move her eyes from the pavement outside, where a row of heavy boots, leather vests, and full-face helmets had already turned toward the glass doors, watching every second Maddox's hand tightened on her arm. He hadn't realized yet that he wasn't the only one watching her. The morning sun warmed Evelyn Bird's face as she stepped off the bus in front of Stonebrook Federal Bank. Her arthritis was flaring up again, making each step with her cane a little challenge. But the thought of her granddaughter's beaming face kept her moving forward. Almost there, she whispered to herself, clutching the folder of scholarship papers against her chest like something precious. The bank's glass doors slid open, welcoming her into the cool air conditioning. Friday mornings were usually busy, and today was no exception. A line of customers snaked from the teller's windows. Evelyn took her place at the end. "Next customer, please," called a young man with a crisp white shirt and a name tag that read Ryan Keller. Evelyn stepped forward, offering a warm smile. "Good morning, young man." Ryan Keller didn't return the smile. His eyes darted around, never quite meeting hers. He looked fresh out of college with hands that hadn't yet developed the confidence of experience. "How can I help you?" he asked, his voice pitched slightly higher than natural. "I'd like to make a withdrawal, please." Evelyn set her folder down and began opening it. $4,000 for my granddaughter's college housing deposit. The deadline is Monday." Ryan's eyebrows shot up. "That's quite a large amount of cash." "Yes, I suppose it is," Evelyn nodded pleasantly. "But her university requires the housing deposit in cash or money order. I've been saving for this day since she was born." "I'll need to see some identification," Ryan said, his tone changing subtly. "Of course." Evelyn reached for her purse, her fingers stiff and uncooperative. She fumbled with the clasp, feeling suddenly nervous under his watchful stare. Her purse was full: prescription bottles, tissues, receipts, hard candies wrapped in crinkly plastic. "Just give me a moment. It's in here somewhere." Ryan's posture stiffened. He glanced toward his manager's office, then back at Evelyn's searching hands. "Is there a problem?" she asked, finally locating her wallet beneath a packet of tissues. No problem," Ryan said quickly. Too quickly, Evelyn pulled out her driver's license and bank card, sliding them across the counter. "Here you are." Ryan picked up her ID, studying it longer than seemed necessary. Then he tapped something into his computer, frowning at the screen. "One moment, Mrs. Bird. I need to verify something with my manager." Before Evelyn could respond, Ryan was walking briskly toward a glass office where a man in an expensive-looking suit sat reviewing papers. Frank Dillard. She'd seen him before, but had never been helped by him directly. He was one of those men who seemed to look through people rather than at them. Through the glass, she watched their conversation. Ryan leaned down, speaking quietly, but pointing back in her direction. Frank Dillard looked up, past Ryan, directly at Evelyn. There was something in that look that made her stomach tighten. Not surprise or concern, but something colder, something she had seen before many times in her 74 years. Frank stood up, straightening his tie, and followed Ryan back to the counter. "Mrs. Bird," he said without extending his hand. His voice carried across the bank lobby. "You're attempting to withdraw $4,000 in cash." Evelyn noticed how heads turned. She kept her voice low and dignified. "Yes, for my granddaughter's college housing deposit." "And why exactly do people like you need that much cash at once?" Frank asked, not bothering to lower his voice. The words landed like a slap. "People like you." She knew exactly what he meant. "My granddaughter's university requires." Yes, Frank cut her off, waving a dismissive hand. "Ryan will help you verify your account. We have procedures for large cash transactions." Frank turned away, and Ryan stepped forward again, not quite meeting her eyes. "I'll just need to run some additional verification on your account, Mrs. Bird. It shouldn't take long." But instead of typing anything into his computer, Ryan stepped away toward the back area behind the teller windows. She watched as he picked up a phone, turning his back to her. Evelyn stood alone at the counter, clutching her folder with her granddaughter's future inside. The pain in her legs had faded into the background, replaced by a familiar feeling of being made invisible. She'd worked her whole life, 32 years serving food in the school cafeteria, volunteering at church every Sunday, raising her children and helping with grandchildren. Now at 74, she was being treated like a criminal for trying to access her own money. She glanced around the bank. Other customers were being helped. A young white couple laughed with their teller as they deposited a check. An older white man in a business suit was escorted to the loan officer's office with a cup of coffee in his hand. And here she stood, waiting like she had so many times before. Through the large front windows, she saw movement in the parking lot. Two police cruisers pulled up, lights off, but positioned directly in front of the entrance. Her heart skipped a beat. Surely they weren't here for her. But deep down she knew something was wrong. Very wrong. The glass doors swung open as officers Brent Maddox and Cliff Harlan strode in. "Which one?" Maddox muttered. Frank gestured toward Evelyn. "Ma'am, we received a call about suspicious activity," Maddox said loudly. "A withdrawal of how much?" "For $1,000 for my granddaughter's college housing deposit. I have all the paperwork, for $1,000 in cash." "And where did someone like you get that kind of money?" Maddox snatched her ID. "Doesn't look right to me." "It most certainly is not fake," Evelyn protested. "I've been a customer here for over 40 years. The bank has reason to believe you're attempting to commit fraud." "That's ridiculous. The money is mine." "Keep your hands where I can see them," Maddox shouted when she reached for her purse. He grabbed her arm and twisted it behind her back. She cried out as her purse tumbled to the floor. The cold metal handcuffs bit into her wrists. "You're hurting me," she gasped. "Stop resisting," Maddox growled, though she wasn't resisting at all. "Evelyn Bird, you're under arrest for attempted bank fraud and resisting arrest." "I didn't resist. I didn't do anything wrong," Evelyn protested, her voice breaking. Outside, Maddox pushed her across the parking lot. From the corner of her eye, Evelyn noticed movement. Motorcycles parked near the ATM. Big Red, who always nodded respectfully when she passed. Sometimes she brought them leftover pastries from church. He was watching now, his expression changing to something darker. Big Red stopped directly in their path, his 6 feet 4 inches tattooed frame blocking the way. Behind him, other bikers rose like a wall of leather and denim. He said nothing. His presence spoke volumes. "Move aside," Maddox ordered, but his voice had lost some edge. "This is police business." "Excuse me, officer." Big Red's voice was calm, but edged with steel. "Mind telling us why you're arresting Miss Evelyn?" Instead of backing away, the bikers stepped forward in unison. Tinker pulled out his phone, filming. Other customers gathered, phones out. "What's she supposed to have done?" Big Red asked. "Because from where we were standing, looked like an old lady trying to get her own money." The radio crackled. "Unit 17, what's your status?" "We're getting multiple calls. Chief says to de-escalate and clear the scene." Maddox's face flushed red. "Turn around, ma'am." He unlocked the handcuffs. "There's been a misunderstanding. You're free to go." "A misunderstanding," Big Red repeated dangerously. "That what you call putting cuffs on a grandmother for no reason?" The bikers formed a protective ring, walking Evelyn back inside. Frank stood in the doorway, forcing pleasantness. "Mrs. Bird, I'm terribly sorry. There wasn't any confusion," Big Red interrupted. "You called the cops on her for taking out her own money." "I just want my money," Evelyn said. "The $4,000 from my account." Ryan counted out the cash with trembling hands. "I'm really sorry about what happened. Can we give you a ride home, Miss Evelyn?" Big Red asked. "Don't think you should be alone right now." Evelyn looked up at this mountain of a man with fierce but kind eyes. "Thank you. I'd appreciate that." At Evelyn's modest bungalow on Maple Street, Big Red and Knuckles helped her inside. Her hands trembled as she filled glasses with ice from the freezer. "Let me help with that," Knuckles said gently, taking the pitcher from her unsteady grip. "You just sit down." "I'm not usually like this," Evelyn said, easing herself onto a kitchen chair. "I don't know what's wrong with me." "Shock," Big Red said simply, sitting across from her. His massive frame made her kitchen chair look like doll furniture. "What happened to you today wasn't right." Knuckles set the glasses of tea on the table and took the third chair. Despite his intimidating appearance, arms covered in tattoos, a leather vest bearing patches she didn't understand, his movements were careful and considerate in her space. I've never been in trouble with the law, Evelyn said, her voice small. Never even had a parking ticket in all my 74 years. You weren't in trouble today either, Big Red said firmly. Those officers were wrong, plain and simple. Evelyn stared at the red marks on her wrists where the handcuffs had dug into her skin. I just wanted to help my granddaughter with her college housing. That's all. Her voice cracked. That manager had no right, Knuckles said, a flash of anger crossing his face. I've been watching that guy for years. Treats folks different depending on who they are. You noticed that too? Evelyn asked. Big Red nodded. We see a lot sitting out there in that parking lot. People don't really pay much attention to us, so we observe things. Like what? Evelyn asked, taking a sip of her tea. Like how that frank fellow runs out to open the door for certain customers, but makes others wait, Knuckles explained. Or how some folks get offered coffee and comfortable chairs, while others get the third degree over simple transactions. Evelyn nodded slowly. I always felt it, but I thought maybe I was being too sensitive. You weren't, Big Red assured her. And what happened today crossed a serious line. Why did you help me? Evelyn asked. You didn't have to get involved. Big Red looked almost embarrassed. You remember last Christmas? You brought us those gingerbread cookies when we were collecting for the toy drive. Evelyn smiled faintly. I remember you were all freezing out there. And last spring when it was pouring rain and you came out with that big umbrella for Tinker while he was fixing his bike. She nodded. That's why. Big Red said simply. You treat people right, so we do the same. Evelyn felt tears welling up again. I just don't understand why they did that to me today. Big Red and Knuckles exchanged a look that told her they understood exactly why, but were too polite to say it outright. Listen, Big Red said, pulling a small notebook from his pocket. He scribbled something down and slid it across the table. This is my number. You call anytime you need anything, day or night. Evelyn looked at the paper. I couldn't impose. It's not imposing, Knuckles interrupted gently. It's community. And around here, you're part of ours. They stayed for another half hour, talking quietly, making sure Evelyn had calmed down before they left. Big Red insisted on checking her locks and peering out her windows as if assessing security. Knuckles asked if she had family nearby who could stay with her. Just my granddaughter, but she's at college in Durham, Evelyn explained. I don't want to worry her with this. When they finally departed, Evelyn stood on her porch and watched their motorcycles disappear around the corner. The neighborhood seemed to exhale collectively, returning to its usual quiet state. It's over now, she told herself, going back inside. A terrible mistake, but it's done. She spent the next few hours trying to settle her nerves. She watered her plants, folded laundry, and prepared a simple lunch she couldn't bring herself to eat. Every few minutes, she found herself rubbing her wrists, the ghost of those handcuffs still tight around her skin. At 3 o'clock, her phone rang. Evelyn didn't recognize the number, but answered anyway. Mrs. Bird, a young woman's voice came through, hushed and urgent. Yes, this is she. This is Marisol Rivera. I'm a teller at Stonebrook Federal. I saw what happened this morning. Evelyn sat down heavily on her couch. Oh, I see. I'm calling because, the young woman paused, and Evelyn could hear her breathing nervously. Because I couldn't sleep tonight if I didn't tell you the truth. The truth about what, dear? Mr. Dillard didn't call the police because he thought you were suspicious, Marisol whispered. He called them because he didn't want you taking out that much cash. Evelyn's heart thumped painfully in her chest. What do you mean? After you left, he was laughing about it in his office with Ryan. Said he was teaching you a lesson about. Marisol's voice dropped even lower. About people like you trying to withdraw that kind of money all at once. Evelyn's hand tightened on the receiver. He told Ryan you were probably running money for street kids. That's what he called them. Said you people always claim it's for family, but it's really for… Marisol couldn't finish the sentence. For drugs, Evelyn supplied, her voice hollow. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Bird. It wasn't right. None of it was right. No, Evelyn agreed quietly. It wasn't. I could get fired for telling you this, Marisol added. But my abuela raised me better than to stay quiet when someone's been wronged. Thank you for telling me, Marisol, Evelyn said. Your grandmother raised you well. After they hung up, Evelyn sat motionless on the couch, the afternoon sun slanting through her curtains and casting long shadows across the living room. The house felt suddenly too quiet, too empty. She walked slowly to her kitchen table and sat down, placing her hands flat on the surface. The bruises on her wrists were darkening now, turning from angry red to deep purple. So it wasn't a mistake after all, she whispered to the empty room. The realization settled over her like a heavy blanket. Not a misunderstanding, not an overzealous teller, not a momentary lapse in judgment. It was deliberate. It was because of who she was. It was because Frank Dillard had looked at a 74-year-old black grandmother and seen something dangerous, something criminal, something less than human. Evelyn forced herself to eat a small dinner, even though her appetite had vanished. She moved through her kitchen with practiced motions, cutting vegetables, stirring broth for her soup, toasting a single slice of bread. The familiar routine helped calm her nerves, though her mind kept returning to Marisol's phone call. "Lord, give me strength," she whispered to herself, a prayer she'd relied on throughout her life. Just as she raised the spoon to her lips, a loud crash from outside shattered the quiet. The sound of metal hitting pavement echoed through the front of the house. Evelyn froze, her heart pounding. She set down her spoon and moved cautiously toward her front window, pulling back the curtain just enough to peek outside, in the dim glow of the street light. She could see her mailbox lying on the ground, ripped clean from its post. A figure in a dark hoodie was running down the street, disappearing around the corner. "Oh my Lord," she gasped, her hand flying to her chest. She hesitated at her front door, then steeled herself and opened it. Standing on her porch, she surveyed the damage. Her sturdy metal mailbox, the one her late husband had installed 15 years ago, lay dented and twisted on the sidewalk. Its wooden post had been snapped in half, splinters scattered across her lawn. A neighbor's porch light flicked on. Mrs. Parker from across the street called out, "Evelyn, you all right over there? Someone broke my mailbox." Evelyn called back, her voice shaking. "Did you see who it was?" "Just saw someone running off. Looked like one of those teenagers from over on Maple." Evelyn went back inside and picked up her phone. With trembling fingers, she dialed the non-emergency police number. A bored-sounding dispatcher answered. "Police department." "Yes, hello. I'd like to report vandalism to my property," Evelyn explained, trying to keep her voice steady. "Someone just destroyed my mailbox." "Your address, ma'am?" "For 12 Willow Street." There was a pause. The sound of typing. "Your name?" "Evelyn Bird." Another pause. Longer this time. "And you said this was about a mailbox?" "Yes. Someone ripped it right off the post. I'm a senior citizen. And, ma'am, we can take a report. But honestly, vandalism like this is usually just kids. We probably won't be able to do much." Evelyn frowned. "But I just saw the person running away. If an officer came now, we're short-staffed tonight, Mrs. Bird. I can have someone drive by tomorrow to take a report if you'd like." The dismissive tone in the dispatcher's voice made Evelyn's stomach tighten. "Yes, please do that. We'll try to have someone there tomorrow afternoon." After hanging up, Evelyn returned to her cooling soup. She ate mechanically, no longer tasting the food. Her thoughts raced. Was it really just teenagers? The timing seemed too perfect, just hours after her humiliation at the bank. She washed her dishes and settled in her living room with a book she couldn't focus on. Every passing car made her glance up at the window. Just past 8 o'clock, a patrol car cruised slowly past her house. Even through the curtains, she recognized Officer Maddox behind the wheel. He wasn't driving normally. He was crawling past, head turned toward her home. Evelyn's blood ran cold. She switched off her reading lamp and moved to the window, peering carefully through a tiny gap in the curtains. The patrol car reached the end of the block, made a U-turn, and drove past her house again, even slower this time. "This isn't right," she whispered to herself. "This isn't right at all." She double-checked her locks before going to bed early, exhaustion from the stressful day finally catching up with her. Sleep came fitfully, filled with dreams of handcuffs and sneering faces. That a sharp crack against her front window jolted her awake. Evelyn sat up in bed, heart hammering. The bedside clock read 9:30 p.m. Another crack followed by a splattering sound. She hurried to her window and peeked out just in time to see a car speeding away. No lights, just tail lights disappearing down the street. Evelyn didn't turn on any lights. Instead, she moved cautiously through her darkened house to the front door. When she opened it, the smell hit her immediately. The sulfuric stench of broken eggs. Her porch was a mess. Raw eggs dripped down her front door, smeared across her welcome mat, and splattered on the porch railings. At least half a dozen had been thrown. She closed the door quietly, leaning against it. No point calling the police again. It was clear now they weren't coming to help her. Sleep was impossible after that. Evelyn sat in her darkened living room until dawn broke, jumping at every sound from outside. When morning light finally filtered through her curtains, she opened the front door to assess the damage in daylight. The egg had begun to dry, creating a crusty yellowish mess all over her porch. And there, stuck prominently to her door with clear tape, was an official-looking notice she hadn't seen in the darkness. Citation, lawn height violation. It read in bold letters. City Code 32.4b. Grass exceeding 8 inches. Fine, $150. Officer issuing citation, B. Maddox. Evelyn stared at the paper, then at her lawn. It had been mowed just 5 days ago by the neighborhood boy she hired. It was nowhere near 8 inches high. This is because of yesterday, she whispered, finally understanding. They're punishing me. Monday morning, Evelyn received a letter from Stonebrook Federal. Your account has been flagged for unusual activity and temporarily frozen pending review. No, she whispered. No, no, no. Big Red called. We'll be there in 20 minutes. At the bank, Frank blocked the entrance. Ms. Bird, you're welcome, but these gentlemen need to wait outside. I can handle this, Evelyn said. Inside, Frank smiled thinly. Security reasons. We noticed unusual withdrawal attempts. How long will this take? Hard to say. Could be days, could be weeks. Marisol whispered when they were alone. Frank personally flagged your account this morning. He said he was teaching a lesson about respect. Outside, Officer Maddox pulled into the lot. Let's go, Big Red muttered. When they split up, Maddox followed Knuckles and pulled him over. Broken tail light. He leaned close. Stay out of Stonebrook business. Next time, it won't just be a ticket. Tuesday, the bikers gathered at Evelyn's. We need more evidence, Big Red said. They organized timelines, downloaded videos, and practiced using a recorder. Call the bank, Stitch suggested. See what they say. Frank answered. As I explained, our fraud detection system has flagged unusual activity. Is there anything I can provide to speed this up? A pause. People like you would be better off using those check cashing places instead of proper banks. Stitch gave a thumbs up. Got it all. Wednesday morning, they drove to Given Law offices. Samuel Given was a dignified man in his 50s with kind eyes. He listened intently, then reviewed their evidence. This is one of the clearest cases of misconduct I've seen in years, he said. Wrongful arrest, excessive force, financial discrimination, elder abuse, retaliation. We're looking at a civil rights lawsuit. I work on contingency, Given explained. It's not just about money. It's about accountability. Evelyn signed the representation agreement. What's the first step? We start fighting back. They filed formal complaints with multiple agencies. By late afternoon, exhaustion caught up with her, but she felt something like peace. Thursday night at 11:15, glass shattered. A brick crashed through her window. Knuckles found a note tied to it. Drop the case, or else. Tinker burst in. Red, come quick. Her garden shed was engulfed in flames. The bikers fought the fire until police and fire department arrived. By 2:30 a.m., officials had left. The shed was destroyed. Friday morning, neighbors gathered, hearing what happened. We heard sirens, Mrs. Parker said. Someone did this on purpose, Mr. Ruiz confirmed. It's because I filed a complaint, Evelyn admitted. Instead of backing away, neighbors moved closer. Similar stories emerged. All had experienced mistreatment from Maddox or Frank. Church Hall, 6 o'clock tonight, Reverend Jackson announced. We need to organize. That evening, the hall buzzed. Every pew filled. Evelyn spoke first. Then others rose with their own stories. Samuel took careful notes. What we're seeing is a pattern, Samuel explained. Each testimony strengthens our position. Hands shot up to give formal statements. The angels will provide security, Big Red announced. Reverend Jackson called Evelyn forward. I was afraid, she admitted. But I'm not small. We're not small. Together, we're mighty. The entire room rose. Who stands with her? Everyone's hand raised. Saturday, Samuel spread files across Evelyn's table. We file Monday morning. Throughout the day, neighbors arrived, giving statements, dropping off food, checking on Evelyn. By evening, they'd assembled comprehensive evidence. Once we file, the media will be all over this, Samuel warned. Are you ready? Evelyn nodded firmly. If telling my story helps others, yes. Monday morning arrived with rain. 30 people gathered outside Evelyn's house. The procession to the courthouse stretched blocks to in courtroom 3. Frank sat smugly at the defense table. Maddox's jaw was clenched. Judge Thornton surveyed the crowded room. Mr. Given, please present your opening statement. Samuel laid out the charges methodically. This case is about systemic discrimination that has affected many in our community. The bank's attorney claimed standard security protocols. The police lawyer emphasized split-second decisions. Call your first witness, the judge ordered. Evelyn took the stand and described everything. The humiliation, the handcuffs, the vandalism, the fire. Marisol testified about Frank's comments. He said, "Why does one of these welfare grannies need that kind of cash?" He told us to always double-check their IDs, but never said that about white customers. The helmet cam footage played. The courtroom watched Maddox roughly handcuffing Evelyn. Under cross-examination, Frank grew defensive. Some people just raise more red flags. Based on what? Samuel pressed. Experience. Experience with elderly black women in particular. Maddox's testimony cracked. Maybe they don't look pretty on camera, but I was doing my job. Was it also your job to issue frivolous citations? Some neighborhoods need more attention than others. What people, Officer Maddox? I didn't mean anything by that. Community members testified about similar experiences. By 4 o'clock, both sides had presented. I will deliver my decision tomorrow morning, Judge Thornton announced. Tuesday morning, the courthouse packed by 8:30. Evelyn sat trembling. Big Red took her hand, at 9 o'clock sharp. Judge Thornton entered. After reviewing all testimony and evidence, I am prepared to deliver my ruling. This court has been presented with overwhelming evidence of discriminatory practices, abuse of power, and retaliatory actions. Frank's smug expression faded. Therefore, I am ruling in favor of the plaintiff on all counts. A collective gasp. Stonebrook Federal Bank and the police department are jointly ordered to pay Mrs. Bird $1.5 million in compensatory damages. Evelyn's hand flew to her mouth. Frank Dillard is terminated effective immediately and barred from management positions for 7 years. Frank's face drained of color. Officers Maddox and Harlan are suspended without pay pending federal investigation. I recommend their permanent removal. I am ordering a state-level inquiry into the police department's practices. Stonebrook Federal is fined $250,000 and ordered to implement anti-bias training. He struck his gavel. Let this ruling serve as a reminder that justice belongs to every citizen regardless of age, race, or social standing. So ordered. Applause erupted. People stood, cheering. Tears streamed down Evelyn's cheeks. "We did it," Samuel said, hugging her. Outside, Evelyn addressed the press. "I never wanted to be in court. I just wanted to help my granddaughter. But when they put those handcuffs on me, something broke inside." Her voice grew stronger. "This victory isn't just for me. It's for every person who was ever afraid to speak up. Today, the court said my place is right here, equal under the law, deserving of respect, and brave enough to demand it." As cameras flashed, Evelyn felt a lightness she hadn't experienced in years. The bruises had faded, but only now did the deeper wound begin to heal, the one that came from decades of swallowed dignity.